How to Talk to Anyone, 92 Little Tricks for Big Success in Relationships. This book is one of those powerful books. I have three takeaways, and my first one is that it's just like it's part two to How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just such a powerhouse book. It just lists off, just like I'm sure you're familiar with How to Win Friends and Influence People. It just goes through step by step practical things that you can do when talking to people. I know when I first started talking to girls for the first time, I was really good talking to guys, but I started talking to girls and I just didn't know what to do, body language, so I was so awkward. And I wish I would have had a guide like this one that I could have just helped me through, okay, step by step, here's what you do. Okay, I'm going to implement this, And I think side by side, because she kind of makes the case in the book of like, oh, How to Win Friends and Influence People is outdated and this is the new version. I don't think that that's the case. I think that this is more of the second half to the book that goes into other areas of communication and friendship and things like that. And I think side by side, if you're one of those people that's looking to improve your sales skills, looking to improve your people skills, this is the book for you. So honestly, highly recommend it. And I just wanted to give you three of my takeaways. I have a lot more than this, but here are just three takeaways for me. Number one is, like I said, it's part two to How to Win Friends and Influence People. She says in the book, there are two kinds of people in life: those who walk into a room and say, well, I'm here. And those who walk in and say, ah, there you are. That focus on other people versus focusing on themselves. And that's been one thing I've really tried to work on over the past couple of years as I've been working on making friends and sales and things like that, is focusing on the other person, listening to them, and not just waiting till I can jump in and cut them off and talk. And I feel like, and this book definitely goes into a lot more depth on that conversation. Number two is that you always hear like these crazy metrics. Nonverbal communication is 90%, 93%, 70%, 80%. Well, there was a study that was done, and they actually calculated out to a science, and they said 55% of language is body language. Your eyes, your teeth, your lips, I don't know about your ears, but your hair, how you look, how you dress, how you stand. Are you tense? Are your arms folded? Are you open? Are you welcoming? All that kind of stuff. 55% of language. Then 38% is tonality, how you sound, right? And then 7% is words. With tonality, on that 38%, there's an example, a very impactful example that Tony Robbins actually gives in one of his courses that he does. He said that, so he was Tony Robbins, he's a life coach. He sat down with many different kinds of people, and he sat down with this one guy, and the guy said, man, Tony, I just don't know if I can do this, if therapy is for me. I mean, this has been really difficult for me, and I'm not sure if this will help my marriage or not. And Tony said, you know what? I know that therapy is something that's hard. It's hard to look at yourself, and I know that when you do look at yourself and you look at the things that you can improve, you really will be able to improve your life circumstance, and your marriage will be able to be resolved. And he's like, thanks so much, Tony. And he goes on and helps him. Well, there's another guy comes in, he's storming, he's fuming, he's like, man, I can't believe I'm sitting in here. My wife's making me be here. I don't even want to be here. I mean, I think that this is all garbage. And Tony Robbins goes, you sit down in that chair right now. We're going to work on you, and we're going to make this happen. We're going to get your marriage back together. And the guy said, oh man, I like this guy. A little bit of spunk, a little bit of kick butt. I like this guy. And it was two different approaches to the same kind of problem, but different tonalities depending on the person who he was talking to. That's 38%. And only 7% is verbal. So when you're thinking about, oh man, what do I say? It's not about what you say. 93% is nonverbal. And a large chunk of this book is all about that nonverbal communication. Lesson number 3 that I got from this book, I just want to pick one of my favorite techniques that I learned. So there are 92 techniques, and it's like technique number 1, technique number 2. This is technique number 17, and it's never the naked introduction. And she says, when introducing people, don't throw out an unbaited hook and stand there grinding like a big clam, leaving the newlyweds to flutter their fins and a fish for a topic. Bait the conversational hook to get them to swim in the swim of things. Then you're free to stay or float or on to the next networking opportunity. You have to bait the hook to suit the fish. That's what Dale Carnegie says as well. And she gives this, not she gives it, I actually want to give an example from my life. I was at a family reunion, and I didn't know anybody. I was just the complete newbie. Everybody else knew one another, and they were all sitting around this table. I go and sit down, and we're all just eating lunch, and everybody's kind of just staying to themselves. And I thought to myself, what could I say that could get everybody talking? And I said, what are your guys' favorite movies? What's your favorite movie? And one person was like, oh, I really like this movie. Oh, I really like Cinderella movie. Oh, I really like Cinderella Man. I really like, and everybody started talking, and it was like this whole conversation just went going, because it wasn't just this naked introduction. Oh, hi, my name's Addison. Oh, hi, I'm Jill. Okay, now what do we talk about? There's nothing more to talk about, because it's a naked introduction. But if I go in, hey, I'm Addison. So where are you from? Oh, I'm from Kansas. Oh, really? Kansas? I've been through Kansas. Do you like the Jayhawks? Whatever. You got to get something that's, yeah, so what's your favorite kind of movie? Oh, I was watching this movie the other day. Something that's a conversational starter. And that's just one example from my life. Those are 3 takeaways that I got from this book. If you haven't read this book, I would highly recommend you read it. Just like I said, it's that part 2 to how to win friends and influence people, and definitely high on my book list. If you have read it, please leave your thoughts on the book below. And until next time, we'll see you on the next book review.